Good morning, everyone. So we started with fifth lesson, transaction processing yesterday. We know what is the definition of transaction. Can anyone tell what is transaction? What do you mean by transaction? No one? So it is nothing but a program that we are going to execute, and that program will bring certain kind of changes, that is update in the database, or it may allow us to access the contents from the database. But whenever I access that contents or whenever I make that contents updated, I have to see to it that the database remains in a consistent state. So after the transactions are being completed, the database should be in a consistent state. But a database can be in an inconsistent state if it is during the process of transaction. So if it is executing something or if it is updating something, it is always in an inconsistent state. But when the execution or the updation is completed, the database is in a consistent state. After that, we had seen that we can execute concurrent execution simultaneously, or we can have multiple executions of transactions, but to that we have to follow a schedule. So previously, what was schedule saying? It is a chronological order where we execute transaction 1 completely, and then we execute transaction second transaction completely. Or even if we change the order, that is first T1 T2 and then T2 and T1, it is going to give us the same result. But if I am having two transactions, and if I run those two transactions simultaneously, and if the read and write operations are not performed or not mentioned correctly, I will always end up in an inconsistent state. Then we had also seen about the serializability, which says that instead of running these transactions in a multiple order or in a concurrent manner, let us stick to executing the transactions one after the another. But there also we saw that we had a conflict serializability, which comes only when we are doing read and write on same data item at the same time, or write and read on same data item at the same time, or when we do write and write on same data item at the same time, but all of these three with respect to two different transactions. Conflict will not only occur when we perform read on same data item by two different transactions. After that, we had also seen what is view serializability. View serializability says that if you are preparing a schedule, an exact copy of a same schedule should be there or should be made, so that if your original schedule is lost or if there is any failure or if it cannot execute, you can have same set of instructions in your S dash schedule also, which is nothing but the schedule which is prepared exactly same at a time when you were creating the original schedule. We also saw some properties of transactions, that is asset properties: atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. Where atomicity says either entire transaction should get executed or nothing should be executed of that transaction. Consistency says that after the execution is completed, your database should maintain the consistency. Isolation says that every transaction should be executed in such a way that even if there is some another operation going on the same database, that another operation should not be aware of any previous operation that is happening. And durability is we keep a copy of a database so that if original is lost, we can use that copy as a backup to recover the database. Instead of recreating, we can use a backup copy to recover all the contents of the database. Now today we'll see the remaining 2 points of the transaction processing. First is a lock-based protocol, and then we'll talk about deadlock. So what do you mean by lock-based protocols? Now in this type of protocol, a transaction cannot read or write on a data item until it acquires the appropriate lock. So what were we doing? We had transactions. For example, in transaction T1, we were reading the data item A. We were doing some operation like subtracting minus 50 from A, writing the new value of A, reading the value of B, adding 50 to the current value of B, and writing the new value of B. So we were doing operations like read on data item A, write on data item A, as well as we did operations like read on data item B and write on data item B. Now, what does this lock-based protocol tells? That if you want to perform any read or write operation on any of a data item, let it be A, B, C, or D, if you want to perform read and write on this data item, you should first acquire a lock. That means you have to reserve it for the use. That is what is acquiring a lock. If that lock is granted, then only you're supposed to use. So if you have a lock on read for a data item, you can read that. If you have a lock on write to a particular data item, you can write. But if you do not have this lock, you cannot use any of the data item either for reading or for writing. So we have two types of locks. First one is a shared lock and second one is the exclusive lock. Now, what is a shared lock? Shared lock means a data item is made only available for read purpose. So if I want the data items only to be read, the lock which I will use is considered to be as a shared lock. What is exclusive lock? If I want to perform read as well as write on a particular data item, at that time I will use an exclusive lock. So shared lock allows to have only read operation on the data item, whereas exclusive lock will allow you to have read as well as write on a particular data item. Okay, so if you are using a shared lock and if you try to write the data item, it will not allow. Why? Because shared tells that it is only used for reading. So if you want reading and writing both, you use exclusive lock. Is this clear up till here? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So what is the purpose of this lock-based protocol? If you want to use any data item, you have to acquire a lock before using that. Once the lock is granted, then you can use that data item. So what types of locks are granted to the data item? It is either read-only lock, which is called as shared lock, denoted by S. And if you want read and write to be done on a data item, you have to acquire an exclusive lock, which is marked with X. So for shared, it is S, and for exclusive, it is X. Okay, clear up till here?
Yes, ma'am.
So we require that every transaction should request for a lock in an appropriate mode on a data item queue. So if I want a read operation to be done on queue, I will acquire a shared lock. But if I want to perform write operation, read and write both on a data item queue, I will acquire a exclusive lock. So who is going to generate and give you these particular locks? They are being done by the concurrency control manager. So concurrency control manager is a manager who takes the request of the lock, and if the locks are available, they will grant that lock to the transaction. So when I say that transaction T1 wants to have a shared lock on data item Q, where will this request go? That data item Q wants a shared lock, it will go to the concurrency control manager. This manager will then grant the lock to that particular transaction. Again, if transaction T2 wants an exclusive lock on data item Q, it has to first make a request to the concurrency control manager. After the request is received by concurrency control manager, it will then grant that exclusive lock on data item Q to the transaction T2. So who is responsible for giving or granting the locks? It is the concurrency control manager who is responsible for granting the locks. Okay. The transaction can proceed to the operation only after the manager has granted the lock. So I cannot perform operation only based on the request. एक बार request किया, so this doesn't mean I can read and write. I will send a request first. After the request is sent, once that request is accepted, after that only I can start using the locks, or I can start using those data items. So only request is not been valid or has not been allowed. After the request is given, once the grant is given, then only you can start using those locks or perform the operation on those locks. Okay. The use of these two lock modes allow multiple transactions to read a data item, but it will not allow them to write. Why? Because we have just studied in conflict serializability. Two data items on two different transactions can perform a read, because they do not conflict in that case. But if you want to perform read write, write read, and write write, then there may be a conflict, even if it is a single transaction or even if there is a multiple transaction. Okay, so if it is read read, it is allowed, but any other apart from that, that is read write, write read, and read read with a multiple transactions cannot be granted. Is this clear? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now if a transaction wants to have a shared lock on a data item Q, which command is to be written? The command written is lock SQ. That means provide a shared lock on the data item Q. So what will happen if it is a shared lock? I can only read the data item Q. If I want to have an exclusive lock, I will write an instruction that is lock XQ. So X is exclusive lock on the data item Q, which means Q can be read as well as written. After the lock is being completed, that means after my operation is completed, reading and writing, I have to unlock that data item so that it can be used by some another transaction. So when I want to unlock it, the instruction written is unlock Q. Okay, if I do not unlock, what will happen? If I do not unlock,
Nobody will be able to access the data.
correct, nobody will be able to access or use that data item. So if I have two transactions, T1 and T2, if T1 has acquired a lock on Q, and if it forgets to unlock or if it doesn't unlock, what will happen? If a T2 sends a request to concurrency manager for the data item Q, will concurrency manager ever be able to grant that access to T2? No. Why? Because that item, data item, has not been unlocked by T1. So any lock which is acquired by the data item has to be unlocked also, so that you make it available for another transaction. If you do not make it available for another transaction, the transaction has to wait until the previous transaction releases the lock. So your transactions can be given the lock only after they are released. If the previous transaction does not release, the current who wants that particular data item has to wait. So if T1 is using data item Q, and if at the same time T2 request, T2 will be made in a would be made in a waiting state. Why? Because T1 has still using that Q. Once the data item Q is released by T1, it can be automatically given to T2. So until a transaction is using, the current transaction which wants the data item has to wait till the previous transaction releases the lock. Understood? Why? Because we cannot have access to two different transactions on a same data item unless it is only read and read operation. Read hai to I can allocate. If shared lock hai to I can allocate, but if it is exclusive lock, I cannot allocate. Clear up till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let us see, I have a transaction T1 which has acquired an exclusive lock on data item B. So what can I do on data item B? Can I do read and write both?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Why? Because it is an which lock? X lock. X lock is nothing but exclusive lock. So read the data item B, perform an operation, write the value of B, and then unlock B. So when I say unlock B means what? I won't be using B ahead, and then this B can be used by any other transaction, whichever transaction wants to use a data item B. Are you understanding till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
What was happening till yesterday? I directly start reading, I directly start writing. But now, since I'm using a lock-based protocol, what does that protocol say? If you want to use any data item for reading and writing, you have to acquire the appropriate lock. Once the lock is acquired, you perform the operation and then unlock it so that other transactions can use that particular data item. Again, when I want to use a data item A, acquire appropriate lock based on what operation you want to do. If you want to do read operation, acquire a shared lock. If you want to do read and write both, acquire an exclusive lock. Once a lock is granted to you, perform the operations and then unlock the data item so that it can be made available to another operation. Is this clear up till here?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is
Yes,
what
ma'am.
is two-phase locking. Oh, sorry. This is what is lock-based protocol. You have to acquire a lock in an appropriate mode that is either shared or exclusive before using it into your transaction. And which lock to acquire depends on what operation you want to do. So shared lock can be acquired on same data item in different transactions, but it is exclusive, then it cannot be done. It is being given only to one transaction at a time. And if some another is requesting, that requesting transaction will have to wait until the previous transaction releases the lock. Okay. Now next we'll see granting of locks. That means how these locks are granted. What I have to do if I want to use a lock, I have to make a request. Where does that request go? It goes to the concurrency control manager. If that lock is available, it will give me immediately. But if that lock is not available, that means if it is being used by some another transaction, the manager will tell me to wait. I have to wait for random amount of time until that previous transaction releases. So let us assume that we have transaction T1, T2 and T3 which are executing. Currently we have only T1 and T2. T2 has acquired a shared lock on data item Q. So before acquiring this lock, it made a request to the concurrency manager. Since that data item Q was free, since it was not used by any other transaction, so data item Q in a shared mode was given to T2. That means what can T2 do with data item Q?
It can only read.
It can only read. Okay. Now, when I say that T1 transaction has requested for exclusive lock on data item Q, what will happen in this case? Right now, I have data item Q in the
Wait
shared
till
lock.
T2 releases.
Sorry,
Wait till T2 releases the lock.
correct. T1 have to wait till T2 releases. Why? Because the lock want is exclusive. If it was shared lock, it would have been granted. But since it is an exclusive lock, so it has to wait till T2 release. Okay. Now, meanwhile, transaction T3 has also started its execution and it wants a shared lock on Q. Will this be granted by concurrency manager? Will transaction T3 get data item Q?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Why? Because they have requested for the shared lock. That means read and read on same data item for two different transaction is allowed. Why it is allowed? Because they do not result into conflict. Therefore, they are allowed. So T1, which is currently using Q, and T3 will also be allowed to use Q. Why? Because both of them wants in the read mode. T1 will not be allowed because it wants to perform read and write also. So read write, since it can create a conflict, therefore T1 is being made to wait till T2 release. But what happened in between? T3 also asked for the data item. So T3 also got the data item. So even if T2 release, will T1 get the exclusive lock on Q?
No, ma'am.
No. Why? Because T2 के साथ T3 was also using. So in this case, T1 will have to wait till T2 completes and till T3 completes. When both of them will complete, then only T1 will get a chance. So this is how the locks are being granted, by checking all the transactions which are running inside the system. So if the request is for exclusive, it has to be made wait. But if the request is for shared, it will be immediately granted. Clear how the locks can be granted?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So can we say the T1 is continuously starving? Starving means it is continuously waiting till it releases by T2 and till it releases by T3. Clear? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now we can avoid this starvation of transaction by granting the locks in a following manner. So ये जो starvation हो रहा है T1 के साथ, we can avoid this starvation by allocating or by granting the locks in these two manner. What are those two manners? Let us see. when a transaction Ti requests for a lock on data item Q in a particular mode M, the concurrency control manager grants the lock provided that, what does this mean? I have a transaction T which is requesting for a data item Q in a particular mode. Okay. So when will this data item be granted to this transaction by the concurrency control manager? If there is no other transaction holding a lock on Q in that particular mode. So say suppose if T1 has requested for Q in an exclusive mode. So when can I give T1 in an exclusive mode of Q? If the Q is not allocated to any other transaction in any of the mode. Okay. If it is allocated in that mode, it will result into conflict or it may result into starvation, and hence I will not allow. Which means what? If I want to acquire a lock on data item Q, concurrency manager will first check if that data item Q is free, then only it will allocate. Are you understanding this? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So if no other transaction is holding a lock on a queue in a same mode, it will not allow. If it is not
Ma'am, but
holding,
that's
it will
not the
come
case
up to
for shared mode, na?
shared mode is allowed. I am talking if it is in exclusive mode. If T1 wants exclusive mode on queue, if it does not have any conflict, that is read, read and write, then it will allow. If it is not coming in a conflict and if it is not given to any other transaction. Shared hai, so everything is allowed. That doesn't result into starvation. But if it is resulting in conflict, it won't allow. Okay? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Second thing, when it will allow, there is no other transaction that is waiting for a lock on queue and that made its lock request before Ti. Now, for example, this transaction T wanted exclusive mode on Q, exclusive lock mode enough for a data item Q. When this will be given, if there is no other transaction waiting for it. So अगर T1 के पहले T2 था waiting में, so T1 will not get. Why? Because उसके पहले already somebody has requested. So their chance will come first. That is the first thing. So if anybody is waiting, it will not be assigned. But if nobody is waiting, the lock will be given. Now in that case also, it will check who has made the request first. So what did we check? T1 और T2 में से request किसने की थी पहले? T2 ने की थी. So it will be granted to T1 and it will be granted to T2 and T1 will still be made wait. So we cannot say that starvation is removed completely. Starvation will be there. Why? We are trying to reduce the starvation so that we do not come up into a conflict. So here also in this second case, there is a conflict. There is a starvation because if any other transaction is already waiting for that data item, this particular data item will never get the queue. Why? Because it already has someone previously waiting. So it again has to wait. But what is we trying to achieve with this starvation is we are trying to reduce the conflict as well as we are trying to avoid the unnecessary rollback of the transactions. So even if by mistake the transactions are being allocated with that data item, some or the other transactions will have to be rolled back in a future because of the conflict. So main reason of avoiding the starvation is to reduce the conflict and reduce the rollback of the transactions. Is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now let us see next two-phase locking protocol. What does two-phase locking protocol mean? Now, whenever the locks are acquired on any particular transactions, it is acquired in two phases. The first one is a growing phase and second one is a shrinking phase. Now, what does growing phase mean? A transaction may obtain lock but cannot release any lock. So in the growing phase, if I want to have a lock on data item A, B, and C, I will acquire it immediately. That means I will not try to send a request as I process on the transaction. I know that my transaction requires A, B, and C. So initially only I will send a request that give me A, B, and C. Once whichever I want, I have taken that lock. Again, I cannot request it during the transaction. So आपको जितने भी locks चाहिए, try to acquire it during the start of the transaction because you are not allowed to acquire a lock once your transaction has started processing. So that is what is a growing phase. Initially only acquire a lock, and once those locks are acquired, you can only release them when you come in the shrinking phase. So shrinking phase is what? A transaction may release lock, but they cannot obtain a new lock. So in growing phase, you acquire a lock, you cannot release. In shrinking phase, you can release, but you cannot acquire a new lock. Let us understand this with an example. So I have transaction T1 and T2. So in transaction T1 wants lock on A and B. Let it be in any mode. So if A and B are free, immediately manager will give a lock on A and B. Now, when it starts unlocking, it cannot acquire a lock on any new data item. So this is what is a growing phase, and this is what is a shrinking phase. In growing phase, you cannot unlock, you can only lock, and in the shrinking phase, you can only unlock, but you cannot lock. Now, in between these two phases, you have a lock point. What is that lock point? एक बार lock point आ गया, that means what? You cannot acquire new locks. आपका जो भी आपको रिक्वेस्ट करना था आपने कर दिया, अभी खत्म हो गया. Now you can only unlock after the lock point. Understanding? So this is the growing phase where you can only acquire a lock, and this is the shrinking phase where you can only unlock. You cannot unlock over here, you cannot have a lock over here. And this is what is a lock point. Clear? Understanding? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
So this
Yes,
is
ma'am.
this is for transaction T1. Now let us see for transaction T2. Now in transaction T2, I want lock on A and C. So acquire a lock on A, acquire a lock on C. Then you have a breakpoint over here, that is a lock point. Once the lock point is achieved, you can only unlock. So this is what is your growing phase, and this is your shrinking phase. Understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if I compare both the transactions, I have lock on A also, I have lock on A also. How is this possible?
Because it is shared lock.
Correct, because the lock acquired on both the data items is in shared S, lock SA, lock SA. So sharing on both the data item is allowed. Therefore, both the transactions are being granted with the data item A. Understood up till here? Two-phase locking protocol.
Yes, ma'am.
So this was all about your lock-based protocol. So before you use the data item, acquire a lock on it. After the data item is completed, you have to unlock it so that it is being made available to another transaction. Clear? So we make use of two-phase locking protocol. So in a growing phase, we acquire all the locks, whatever we want in the transaction. We start executing the operations of those transactions, and once it reaches a shrinking phase, we start releasing all the locks. So in the initial phase, no unlocking is allowed, and in the end phase, no locking is allowed. Understood? Clear up till here? Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So next we start with a deadlock. Now, do you all remember what was deadlock in the process of OS? डेडलॉक प्रोसेसेस में क्या था ओएस के? एनीबडी रिमेम्बर्स? डेडलॉक क्यों होता है, कैसे होता है?
Ma'am, when multiple process request for one resource.
Correct. When multiple process at the same time request for one particular resource, and if there is a cycle on that particular resource by many processes, we consider that there is a deadlock. So now what can be a deadlock in transaction processing? Any idea? What can be a deadlock in
T1 wants a resource which is exclusively locked by T2, and T2 wants a resource which is exclusively locked by T1.
So I have two transactions. Those two transactions wants a lock on a data item which may be used by somebody else or some another transaction. So if there is a cycle again, that is T1 waiting for data item with T2, T2 waiting for data item with T3, and T3 waiting for a data item with T1. So when I have this, I consider as a deadlock. So deadlock is a state in a database system having two or more transactions. when each transaction is waiting for a data item that is being locked by some another transaction. So I am waiting for a data item which is with Nishit. Nishit is waiting for data item which is with Soham. Soham is waiting for data item which is with me. So since every one of us is waiting for some another data item which is locked by some other transactions, and hence we end up with a deadlock. So how do you indicate a deadlock? It is indicated by the cycle. So I am waiting for Nishit, Nishit for Soham, Soham again for me. So since we have a cycle, so there is a deadlock. Okay. So now here what can I say from a diagram? Transaction T2 is using some of the rows of student table, and at the same time transaction T2 also wants some of the rows of table student. Transaction T2 is using the table grade, and at the same time T1 is requesting for the table grade. So since both of them are waiting for the tables which are used by both of them, we consider it as a cycle. So T1 के पास student है and it is requesting for grade. T2 के पास grade है and it is requesting for student. So there is a deadlock. Why? Because T1 is waiting for T2 to release, T2 is waiting for T1 to release. And at the same time, they also have made a request to their opposite tables also. Therefore, we say that there is a deadlock. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So now if there is a deadlock, what I have to do is either I have to avoid it or I have to prevent it by detecting it. So first step is I will detect it, I will try to prevent, I'll try to avoid, and I'll try to recover. The same thing which we did in OS. पहले detect किया, detect करने के बाद we tried to prevent it or we try to avoid it, or if we end up in a deadlock, we try to recover it. Okay. So let us see what is deadlock avoidance. The deadlock avoidance mechanism is used to detect any deadlock situation in advance. That means what I will do is if I want to avoid, I will check the graph and I will try to avoid it well in advance. So how can I avoid it well in advance? By checking a method or by using a method called as wait for graph. So wait for graph is used to detect the deadlock situation, but this is suitable only if the database is smaller. But if the database is larger, I have to use a deadlock prevention techniques. So if my database is smaller, I will use deadlock detection technique. That is, I will check the graph and detect the deadlock. But if I want to avoid the deadlock and if my database is large, I have to use deadlock prevention technique. Are you understanding? So there are two ways to avoid the deadlock. First is check whether the database is small or large. अगर छोटा है तो एक ऐसा ग्राफ बना दो and check whether the deadlock is there or not. But if the database is larger, you have to use some prevention techniques that we will study ahead. Okay? So now let us see how to handle the deadlock. Two ways are there to handle. First is ignore. The way we saw it in OS. अगर आता है तो आने दो, जब आएगा तब देखा जाएगा. That is what is ignoring. So deadlock is there, but let it occur, let it create some major problem in the system. If it creates a major problem, I will look into it. If it is not creating any major problem, let it be as it is. So I am completely ignoring it. What I can do, second thing is I will detect it. How I will detect? I will detect it with the help of a graph. So a deadlock detection and removal approach runs a deadlock detection algorithm periodically and removes the deadlock in case if it is there. So I have an algorithm for deadlock detection. I will periodically, that is in a month, twice in a month, or maybe once in 3 months, like this, I will run that algorithm in my system. And when I run this algorithm, the algorithm will detect me those deadlocks and I will try to solve those deadlocks. If the deadlocks are not detected, it's okay. That means there is no deadlock in the system. So a lock manager maintains a wait for graph to detect the deadlock in the cycle. So when I run this algorithm, what this algorithm will check whether it has any cycle or not. If the cycles are detected, that means there is a deadlock. So now what is happening? We will check for the graph like this, which is called as wait for graph. So your deadlock detection is running an algorithm called as wait for graph. And what is happening in this wait for graph? I am checking for the cycles. T2 is waiting for T1 to release. T1 is waiting for T2 to release. So since I have this cycle or I have this closed loop, that means a deadlock is detected. So the algorithm run is called as wait for graph, which will check for the cycles. If there is a cycle, that means there is a deadlock. If there is no cycle, that means there is no deadlock. So now I have detected the cycle with the help of wait for graph. And that wait for graph has told me that there is a deadlock. So when I have a deadlock, what I have to do is I have to remove that deadlock, or I have to prevent it from that deadlock. So how do I prevent it from the deadlock? I use an approach called as deadlock prevention. So a deadlock prevention approach does not allow any transaction to acquire a lock that will lead to a deadlock. What is this approach doing? If any transaction wants to have a lock, it will give the lock in only condition if it does not lead to a deadlock. If transaction T1 wants a lock on data item Q, it will first check कि अगर मैंने इसको data item Q दे दिया T1 को, अगर deadlock होता है तो it will not give, it will ask to wait. If there is no deadlock occurring, it will immediately give the lock to the transaction T1. The convention is that when more than one transaction request for locking of same data item, only one of them will be granted with a lock. So if T1 and T2 are two transactions which has requested for data item Q, दोनों में से किसी एक को ही वो देगा. Because if it gives to both of them, it will lead to the deadlock. So to which one it is giving, again it will use some algorithm to decide कि किसको पहले देना है. So those two algorithms are called as wait die scheme and wait wound wait scheme. Okay, so prevention is done of the deadlock by giving a lock to only one transaction, even if two are requesting, and on which condition it will be given, either the scheme called as wait die or the scheme called as wound wait. Have you understood up till here?
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, it will try not to give the deadlock. If in case it is reaching to a deadlock condition, lock देगा ही नहीं अगर deadlock होता है तो. What will be the other case? If two transactions are requesting for the same time, it will use these two schemes to allocate the lock to either of only one transaction. Okay, now let us see that. In this scheme, if a transaction requests for a resource which is already held with a conflicting lock by another transaction, that means a transaction T1 को कोई एक data item पे lock चाहिए which is already given to some another transaction, then what will DPMS do? It will simply check the timestamp of both the transaction. दोनों transaction का timestamp check करेगा. It allows the older transaction to wait until the resource is available for execution. तो जिसने पहले request किया था older transaction, that has to wait till the resource is made available. Because अगर वो दे देगा तो there will be a deadlock. So anyone has to wait. But which one will wait based on the timestamp? किसका timestamp? Older transaction का. Let us see that. So we have two transactions, Ti and Tj. Let us assume that Ts, that is timestamp, is denoted with Ts. So transaction ka timestamp will be Ts. We have two transactions, Ti and Tj, and let Ts of T be the timestamp of the transactions. If T2 holds a lock by some another transaction and T1 is requesting for the resource which is held by T2, that is T2 is having a lock on some of the data item which is with some another transaction, and T1 is requesting for the resource which is there with T2. So in this case, what is going to happen? I will be checking the timestamp. So check, is the timestamp of Ti less than timestamp of Tj? So if Ti is the older transaction, then Tj has held some resources. So in that case, Ti is allowed to wait until the data item is available for execution. That means if two transactions are requesting for the data item, which is held by some transaction, some another transaction, so it will check the timestamp. If Ti ka timestamp is smaller than Tj, what will happen in that case? Ti will have to wait until that data item is made available. Why? Because Ti is the older transaction. क्योंकि इसके पहले Tj ने already request किया है for that data item which is currently now with some another transaction. तो इन दोनों में से पहले किसको मिलेगा? जिसका timestamp बड़ा रहेगा. तो बड़ा किसका timestamp है? Tj का. इसलिए request is granted to Tj. and Ti is made wait. Clear up till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody? Okay. Next is, if the timestamp of Ti is less than Ts, if Ti is older transaction and has held some resource, and if Tj is waiting for it, then Tj is killed. Now in this case, what is happening? इधर क्या हो रहा था? Tj ने पहले रिक्वेस्ट किया था, अभी यहाँ पे Ti ने पहले रिक्वेस्ट किया है. तो अगर Ti ने पहले रिक्वेस्ट किया है और if that is the older transaction and if उसका टाइम स्टैम्प is less than Tj, what will happen in that case? Ti को मिलेगा, the data item will be given to Ti and Tj will be killed. Killed मतलब उसका execution rollback हो जाएगा and it has to start the transaction again. Why this is done? In order to wait for unlimited starvation.
Ma'am, in both the cases, Ti is the only older transaction.
हाँ, Ti is only smaller, but in the first case, Ti के पहले Tj ने request की थी, and यहाँ पे what is happening? Ti has requested before Tj. Why is Tj killed? Because to avoid the unnecessary starvation. Are you understanding? Both the situations are same, but the request made at a time is different. In the
Ma'am, but
previous,
how
in,
will
listen.
Ma'am, how
In the
will
previous transaction, I am going to check the timestamp. जिसका timestamp is older, I will be using that. तो Ti का timestamp was older, therefore Ti has to be made wait. ठीक है? But what is happening in this case? Here also Ti is older, but why Tj is being made wait, and in order to avoid that unwanted waiting or starvation, we have to roll back that Tj. Now ask your question.
I mean, the first case, in both the cases, Ti is the older, and Tj has hold some resource. But how will Tj help some resource if the later one?
नहीं, लेटर ऑन कभी मिलेगा? लेटर ऑन मीन्स अभी उसके पास एक रिसोर्स है पर उसने अगले के लिए रिक्वेस्ट करके रखा है. रिक्वेस्ट करना इज अलाउड, ग्रांटिंग विल नॉट बी डन. कब उसको ग्रांट मिलेगा? जब वो खुद का आइटम छोड़ेगा, तभी उसको ग्रांट मिलेगा. Two transactions, even if they are having a lock on some database, lock on some data item, they can send the request, but request won't be granted unless it releases खुद का lock. So what here is happening? TJ के पास एक data item already है and it has requested for one more data item which is with some another transaction. Now what happened? At the same time, Ti also requested for that data item which is with somebody else. So दो क्या रिक्वेस्ट गई? Tj की भी रिक्वेस्ट गई, Ti की भी रिक्वेस्ट गई, बट मिला किसको? टाइम स्टैम्प चेक किया, Ti का टाइम स्टैम्प ओल्डर है Tj के टाइम स्टैम्प से, इसलिए पहले Tj को मिला एंड देन Ti को मिला. अंडरस्टैंडिंग? Are you all understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
That means what I'm telling is data item is with somebody, some another transaction. Let it be TK के पास है, Tj ने भी TK को रिक्वेस्ट किया है, Ti ने भी TK को रिक्वेस्ट किया है. But in that case, I will be checking the timestamp of Ti and Tj. So when I check the timestamp of Ti and Tj, so if Ti is older and if Ti will be made wait until the data item will be released by TK and given to Tj and then released from Tj given to Ti. Understanding? See, it is
Yes,
it is all about older transaction and younger transaction. So if it is older, it will be given. If it is younger, it will be made wait. Made wait, or it may be restarted again. Okay. So what it is doing, it is waiting. If the wait is not given, it will die. Die means it will restart its execution. Clear? Yes or no?
Yes,
ma'am.
Next is wound wait scheme. Now what is this wound wait scheme? If a older transaction requests for the resource which is held by the younger transaction, then the older transaction forces the younger one to kill the transaction and release the resource. So I have one old transaction and I have one new transaction. Okay. So if old transaction wants something which is currently given to the younger transaction, what will that all do? It will force this new transaction to kill, release the resource and give it to the older transaction. So I have T1 and T2. T2 के पास एक resource है जो T1 को चाहिए. Since T1 is old and T2 is new, T1 will force T2 to release the lock, kill itself and make that lock available for T1. In that case, what will happen? T2 has to kill itself and then restart the execution again. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
If the older transaction has held a resource which is requested by the younger transaction, then the younger transaction is made wait. T1 has a resource, T2 request for that resource. Since T1 is older, what will T1 do? T1 will tell that you have come after me, you have to wait until I release. So whenever I will release, at that time you will get the resource. That is what is wait and wound. So even if you are older, you are having an advantage. What is that advantage? अगर आपको नए के पास से कुछ चाहिए तो नए को kill करो और वो ले लो. Second situation, if नए resources को नए transaction को आपसे कुछ चाहिए तो you make that new transaction wait until you release. So in both the cases, there is advantage for the transaction which is older. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So that is what is deadlock prevention. So you are preventing from the deadlock by using these technique of either timestamp, that is wait and die, or wait and wound. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now what
Yes,
is
ma'am.
recovery? अगर deadlock हो गया, in any case, if the deadlock has occurred, how are we supposed to recover from the database? We do two steps. First step is we select the victim. Select the victim means which is a transaction that has led to a deadlock. So given the set of the deadlock transactions, so सारे transactions में से we try to identify कि because of which transaction the deadlock had occurred. Okay. And once we identify कि वो transaction के वजह से deadlock हुआ है, what do? We perform a total rollback. What is a total rollback? We make that transaction to restart it again from the beginning. And because of which we break the cycle and we break the deadlock. So if I have transaction T1, T2, T3, अगर deadlock है इनके बीच में, so first I will identify कि out of this three किसके वजह से deadlock हुआ है, which is a transaction that has led to the deadlock. Once I identify कि transaction T2 के वजह से deadlock हुआ है, I will ask T2 to perform a total rollback. Total rollback means T1, T3 will continue its execution from wherever they had stopped, but T2 has to start its execution from the first line again. Clear? That is what is recovery. So for recovery, you identify किसके वजह से deadlock हुआ है, and once you have identified, make the transaction to roll back from the start or to restart the execution from the beginning. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
So with this, we complete chapter 5. So what have we done today? Lock-based protocols, which means if a transaction wants a lock on a data item, request for the lock to the manager. If it is free, manager will give you. If it is not free, it will ask you to wait. So we use two-phase locking protocol. In one phase, which is growing, acquire all the locks, and in the shrinking phase, release all the locks. Then we had seen what is deadlock. So we either ignore the deadlock or we detect it. For detecting, we make use of an algorithm called as wait for graph, where we check the cycles. Once the cycles are identified, we say that there is a deadlock. We can prevent it by two schemes, that is wait die scheme and wait wound scheme. If we cannot prevent, we can recover it by selecting the victim transaction and then rolling back the entire transaction from beginning. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So with this, we complete chapter 5. What is the status of your practicals? Are you all submitting? Is the ER diagram submitted?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
What about others? Everyone has done?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.